Ever thought presidential debates double as comedy shows?
Absolutely.
Well, they have a long history of it. While we often think of these debates as serious showdowns of policy and power, some of them are surprisingly hilarious.
We finally beat Medicare.
Let's kick things off with a throwback to 1858, when Abraham Lincoln and Stephen A. Douglas faced off in their famous debates. Abraham Lincoln, renowned for his sharp wit, often used humor to deflect criticism and connect with others. During the debates, Douglas mocked Lincoln's humble beginnings as a storekeeper, saying, "And an excellent bartender he was too." Lincoln responded, "What Mr. Douglas has said is true enough. I did keep a general store and sold cotton and candy and cigars and sometimes whiskey. But now there's a difference between us. I have left my side of the counter, but he sticks to his as tenaciously as ever." Lincoln's humor also shone in his personal remarks. When told that people said the nation's welfare depended on both God and him, he replied, "You're half right." Describing his presidency, he compared it to being tarred and feathered, saying, "If it weren't for the honor of the thing, I would rather have walked." When accused of being two-faced, he quipped, "If I had two faces, would I be wearing this one?" In response to General McClellan's inaction, Lincoln wrote, "If you don't want to use the army, I should like to borrow it for a while. Yours respectfully, Abraham Lincoln." And when a temperance committee asked him to fire General Grant for drinking too much, Lincoln responded, "I wish some of you would tell me the brand of whiskey that Grant drinks. I would like to send a barrel of it to every one of my other generals." Fast forward to 1960, and it's the very first televised presidential debate between Richard Nixon and John F. Kennedy. Now Nixon shows up looking like he's just rolled out of bed and forgotten his razor. He's sweating like a marathon runner in a sauna, while Kennedy is as smooth and cool, basically the George Clooney of presidential candidates. People watching at home were like, is Nixon auditioning for a horror movie? And Kennedy, well, he looks like he's auditioning for a toothpaste commercial. Nixon's discomfort was so palpable, it made viewers wonder if they should offer him a towel or some calming tea. Now let's talk about 1984 and the legendary debate between Ronald Reagan and Walter Mondale. Reagan, at 73, was facing questions about his age, so what does he do? He drops one of the best one-liners in debate history.
I recall yet that President Kennedy had to go for days on end with very little sleep during the Cuba Missile Crisis. Is there any doubt in your mind that you would be able to function in such circumstances?
Reagan's response flipped the question around, highlighting his experience and strengths and his opponent's opposed lack thereof.
Not at all, Mr. Truitt, and I want you to know that also I will not make age an issue of this campaign. I am not going to exploit for political purpose.
Reagan then took a drink of water to let the moment really land with the audience. In the end, not only did Reagan win the election, he had one of the biggest landslide victories in United States history.
If it was not for the elders correcting the mistakes of the young, there would be no state.
Bush versus Dukakis, 1988. Michael Dukakis had a notable political career, first serving in the Massachusetts House of Representatives, and then as governor. In 1987, he decided to run for president. He won the Democratic primary, but faced a tough challenge from Republican candidate George H.W. Bush, who frequently criticized Dukakis' liberal stance on issues like the death penalty. During the second presidential debate, journalist Bernard Shaw tested Dukakis' position on the death penalty by asking whether he would support it if someone had and his wife.
Governor, if Kitty Dukakis were raped and murdered, would you favor an irrevocable death penalty for the killer?
No, I don't, Bernard, and I think you know that I've opposed the death penalty during all of my life. I don't see any evidence that it's a deterrent, and I think there are better and more effective ways to deal with violent crime.
Although Dukakis provided a thoughtful answer, many viewers perceived it as too detached and emotionless, reinforcing his already robotic reputation. His campaign never fully recovered, and Bush ultimately won the election. However, To be fair to Dukakis, the question posed was quite provocative. It highlighted a fundamental difference in opinion.
We just have an honest difference of opinion. I support it, and he doesn't.
Bush versus Gore, 2000. If you ask people what they remember from the first presidential debate between George W. Bush and Al Gore, they probably won't mention any clever zingers or impressive answers. Instead, they'd probably talk about the sigh heard around the world.
Trillion, Mr. Vice President. It's going to go to everybody who pays taxes. I'm not going to be one of these kinds of presidents that said, you get tax relief and you don't. Vice President, it's going to go to everybody.
The former vice president was caught on camera sighing and shrugging so often, it looked like he was auditioning for a role in a melodramatic soap opera.
In a word, you have a problem with that?
Yeah, why haven't they done it in 7 years?
The moment became the ultimate comedy goldmine, with talk shows and sketch comedies turning it into a running gag.
Rome came to life and gladiator.
The Bush campaign even jumped on the bandwagon with their Sighs and Lies ad campaign. Gore tried to stash the sigh away in a metaphorical lockbox and came back swinging in future debates, but it was a bit too little, too late. After all, we know which one of these two guys ended up in the Oval Office. The original 2016 presidential debates with Anderson Cooper playing the role of the exasperated teacher, constantly scolding Donald Trump for interrupting or talking over Hillary Clinton.
It's just not true, and so please
you didn't delete him?
Allow her to respond, please.
Personal emails, not official.
33,000?
The 2016 debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton was a wild roller coaster. Trump's constant interjections turned the debate into a chaotic contest of who can talk over who. And let's not forget the cringeworthy back and forth over Trump's tax returns. And Clinton's response to being called a nasty woman became a feminist battle cry. It was political comedy gold on a grand scale.
Is to replenish the Social
Such a
Security
nasty
Trust
woman.
Fund.
Add in Clinton's puppet comment and Trump's repeated emphatic,
No
United
puppet,
States,
no puppet.
and you've got a debate that was less about policy and more about punchlines. Coming to the debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden earlier this year, Biden's ridiculous stares into the abyss and Trump's regular talking points were not the only entertaining factors of the debate.
My son was not a loser, was not a sucker. You're the sucker. You're the loser.
During the debate, Biden was asked about the national debt and kicked off with a solid pitch about his tax reform policies and their impact on healthcare. But then, things took a turn.
Everything we have to do with, look, if we finally beat Medicare.
It was like watching a GPS lose signal in the middle of a road trip.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either.
Everyone later questioned Biden's ability to continue as president, wondering if he might need a nap between meetings and a senior discount for policy decisions. As sad as it was witnessing President Biden's fall from grace, let's not forget the zingers we got from the debate between them 4 years prior when Joe Biden was much better than we saw him here.
The fact of the matter is, I beat Bernie Sanders.
Not by much.
It was a tough gig, made even tougher by Donald Trump's non-stop interruptions.
Left 2 days early, you would have lost every primary.
All he knows how to
on
do
Super
is hurt.
Tuesday.
Say the line, Bart.
You got
Look,
very lucky.
here's the deal.
Biden tried to brush off the constant buzzing at first, but it eventually got to be too much. Finally, he snapped and told Trump to shut up.
Left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is?
The two candidates then started arguing over each other, turning the debate into a full-blown circus.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
And what can we expect from this year's election between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris? Stay tuned, because if history has shown us anything, it's that presidential debates are a treasure trove of unpredictability and comedy gold. And you'll catch all the action right here on HBM.